I believe that romanticism is the single greatest enemy we face for love, and that if we are to learn how to love better in the future, we must give up a lot of the feelings that got us into the sort of relationships that romanticism points us towards. Now, what is so wrong with romanticism? Why the cynicism? Well, let's start with a few points. One of the first things that's troublesome is that, unlike what romanticism tells us, we are not pure, kind, loving beings simply on the lookout for a soulmate. We are deeply dangerous, and most of us are on the edge of insanity. This is not an exception. It's just what it means to be human. All of us are only just holding it together. We are dangerous to be around. We have all sorts of impulses, feelings, desires, which make us great trouble to be around. The only people we can think of as normal are people we've just met. Once we've met them a little bit more, we will soon realize that they are not normal. So, in other words, we are trouble to be around, we're a little bit crazy. This is compounded by the fact that anyone we're likely to get together with is also going to be crazy, and they won't be able to tell us how they're crazy. Their craziness will be an intimate part of their own biography, which we won't be able to get to by the normal kind of questions that we get addressed at a dinner date. I mean, one of the first things that we should be asking ourselves in a more psychologically aware society, one of the first questions you should ask anyone at a dinner date is, how are you mad? I'm mad like this. How are you mad? That should be a very standard question we ask each other over dinner. But it's seen as an insulting question. It isn't. Another reason why, of course, we're so unaware of our psychological dynamics is that until we start a big long-term relationship, no one can be bothered to tell us. Our friends certainly can't. I mean, sometimes in relationships, when things are tricky, we say things like, well, Mary, my friend, or John, my friend, they don't seem to criticize me. Why are you criticizing me all the time? My mother doesn't criticize me. Well, the reason is mothers and friends don't care enough. They don't have to deal with you all the time. So they don't give you the vital feedback that only a lover deep in a relationship, probably a marriage, will ever tell you. So the information that is most relevant to our self-understanding is missing. Friends don't care, and lovers, when it gets too tricky, casual relationships just end because people can't be bothered to invest in the deep sort of in mutual enlightenment that should be going on in a relationship. Now, nowadays we believe in instinct, that we should follow our instinct. Instinct should guide us to the person who will make us happy. The problem is, and this is really the drift, to summarize brutally, this is the drift of what psychoanalysis has taught us in the 20th century. Psychoanalysis has taught us that when we fall in love with people, we're essentially recreating a pattern of earliest childhood, that we learn about love in the bosom of the family. And when it comes to adult love, we are mirroring very much on top of this ancient story, which is generally inaccessible to our conscious control. Now, the problem is that when we love in adulthood, we are not necessarily drawn to people who will make us happy. We are drawn to people who will feel familiar. And very often, happiness and familiarity have drifted apart, because the love we knew as children is not a love that was pure of certain rather unhealthy or troublesome dynamics. And so this explains how often you'll set up a friend with another friend, and they both seem so well suited on paper, according to reasonable criteria, and then the friend calls you up and they say, you know, they were perfect, but I just didn't have that special feeling. And you think that special feeling is a surefire guide to happiness, but no, it really means that the person was probably a little bit too normal for your friend. They were a little bit too healthy. They didn't satisfy your friend's requirement for suffering.